王宗平博士呢是美国武术总会的常务副主席，他是伯克莱大学的这个数学博士的独立研究员他现在呢是毕业于伯克莱大学曾主持参加第8届这个世界功夫锦标赛的研讨会，在这个学术领域呢参与过很多，也主持过这个世界级的一个研讨。也是美国国家标准与技术研究院这个还有2017年亚裔美国人太平洋岛，好，稍等，这个总之呢，在这个作为这个美国武术总会的副主席呢，对我们这个太极的推广呢做了很多的贡献那我们现在邀请王宗平老师来跟我们讲座，好，谢谢王老师。
好，大家好。我今天呢，首先要很感谢李树东老师安排，也给我这个很好的机会，给大家介绍。今天呢，我要讲，Today what I want to talk about is this from the scientific perspective, the understanding of the principle of 3 harmonies. 3 harmonies, as we all know, the principle of 3 harmonies comes from Chen Changxin's 10 essential principle. Flip. No. Okay, here is this is what I want to talk about. Okay, I want to talk about the principle of 3 harmonies, talk about Fang Song relaxation, and I want to talk about Qi from the perspective of science. So before that, we have to review what is muscle tendon unit or MTU, fascia connective tissues, and the property of viscoelasticity. This is very important because why? Because our body is not a rubber band. And most important of all, we're going to end up with the proposition that, and this is something which is very important, and I want you to pay attention to it. Qi, what is Qi? Qi, from a perspective of science, can be thought of as the cognitive perception of the facial tensional network. Repeat. Qi is the cognitive perception of the facial tensional network. Okay, so now I'm going to launch into the discussion on. So I'm going to talk about, first of all, the muscle tendon, muscle and tendons, and viscoelasticity. As you know, a skeletal muscle, such as our biceps, attaches to the bones via tendons at both ends. This describes a muscle tendon. When the muscle contracts, it stretches and generates a tension in the tendons. And this gives us the tensile force that moves the attached bones at the joint. So the muscle contraction is active, and the tensional force in the tendons is passive. So in flexing and extending our arm, after our arm extension, so when we flex our arms after extension, the arm does not snap back and end up slapping our face. Why? Because the muscle tendon unit is viscoelastic. It's not elastic. And of course, the muscles, the biceps and the triceps work as an agonist-antagonist pair to give us the smooth motion. Unlike elastic property, this is about viscoelasticity. The response is to loading and unloading is not immediate. The loading of viscoelastic muscle tendon unit is time dependent, and the deformation and recovery is gradual, contributing to its viscous property are the fascial connective tissues enveloping the muscles and all their subunits. Tension is also created in the fascial connective tissues and the ligaments in the muscle loading. So we have an exchange of forces between the muscle contractile force and the tension of the tendons and of the components of the connective tissues and ligaments. All these sum up to give us the tensile force of the muscle tendon unit that moves the bones that are connected. Viscoelastic behavior is characterized by stress and strain that are time dependent. Held under a constant strain, the stress tension undergoes relaxation, and under constant tension, the strain creeps in length. The functional modality to be discussed soon utilizes the viscoelastic property to function. So next, I want to tell you about, review quickly the fascial tensional network. The skeletal frame, as you know, is held together by the MTUs, the muscle tendon units, ligaments, and fascial connective tissues. The coverings of the connective tissues extend across the entire frame and envelop the internal organs and other structures. Then the fascial connective tissues literally give us a physical connectivity body-wide. And all these connective tissues are viscoelastic. So the tension is generated in the fascial tissue in muscle loading. And the fascial tension plays a pivotal role in the transmission of tensile forces of the MTUs, muscle tendon units. It extends body-wide to form a fascial tensional network. However, the tensional network you have to cognize the tensional network so that it can be used in the discipline of body motion. So the practice of Taijiquan cultivates the cognitive perception of this fascial tensional network by drawing on the modality of functional relaxation that utilizes the viscoelastic properties of the muscle tendon unit and fascia. So this allows us to talk about Qi and Fang Song from the perspective of science. Fang Song, what is Fang Song? It is a way to resolve muscle activity, to see how Fang Song works. Stretch out your arm to the side and hold it level, stationary. Commonly, the shoulder muscles dominate. Generally, you have a varying combination of muscles of shoulder and the arm that hold the arm in support. But what are the preferred combinations? Now, the functional mechanism helps to resolve it. As you know, after holding the arm for a few minutes, you may feel muscle tenseness and fatigue. So when you feel that instinctively, the muscle responds by relaxing and letting go, that acts to reduce the excessive muscles, thus bringing some relief. This is the rudimentary operation of Fang Song, to relax or let go upon sensing tenseness. On the other hand, the arm may sense a lack of tensional connection to the hand. To correct this, the hand can respond by stretching the arm to transmit tension to the hand. But active stretching may inadvertently introduce tenseness. But we can modify the stretch command to stretch internally to minimize the prime moving muscle. Or we are admonished, we are told to use our mind or E and not force. Interestingly, this works. So the functional rule is function relax upon sensing tenseness of excessive muscle activity or stretching internally upon sensing laxness of deficient muscle activity. So this rule is not about allocating so much muscle here and so much muscle there, which the body cannot do. So, but first of all, we have to have cognition of what is tense, what is lax. Then the function becomes a pragmatic operation. Then you can simply say, once you feel tense, you say, well, I have to be less tense. We feel lax, you say, I have to be less lax. That is, we stay in the middle ground between tenseness and laxity and work on, and then we work on getting the margin of errors smaller and smaller, which then leads us to convergence to a higher state of balance. So the continual application of Fang Song cultivates the cognitive perception of the interacting tensions and the MTUs as to their errors and of being too much or too little and the resolution. The cognitive perception, recognizing the perception, the cognitive perception of fascial tension thus developed is sense. This cognition is sensed as qi and incorporates the mechanism for Fang Song resolution. So effectively, Fang Song settles the segments, body segments into a better balance each time. Now we have to apply this Fang Song idea, not just to the joints of the arm, but to the whole body, which have, or to the hundreds of joints in the body, which clearly is a very daunting task. Now, so this is where the three harmony principle comes in with the simplification scheme that simplifies the 100 joints into pairs of major joints. So in the second half of the of this talk, we're going to be talking about the external three harmonies of the shoulder and quad, elbow and knee, hand and foot, and the three internal harmonies of the heart and mind, muscle and bone, qi and force. From a training standpoint, the key concept I want you to take away is the paramount status of the quad junction and the concept of dantian centrality. So these principles will help us in the training to produce motion that is ideal, meaning motion that is in accord with yin-yang principles. And from there, we get the gems of Neijing, internal strength. We get the insight of mindfulness and equanimity and the benefit of health, well-being. So that is that will be the second part of our talk. Now, the external harmonies on the three harmonies give us a way to train systematically and work through the joints a pair at a time to resolve the balance and harmony. Fang Song works on the harmony of the shoulder and the hip correspondence. It is then, once we have a clarity of that, we extend it to the pairings of the elbow and the knee and the hands and the feet by the three harmony principle. Then once you have that, you can extend that to cross pairings between the left hand and the right foot, the left elbow and the right knee, the left shoulder and the right hip, Then the left and the right can be switched in alternative cross pairings. Now from this, you can see that the principle provides a means to comprehensively discipline balance and transmission of motion in the matrix of the major joints. So next, I want to introduce the paramount status of the Qua. As you know, the shoulder and hip correspondence defines the torso, which sits on the Qua. The Qua or hip junction supports the motion of the upper body, which represents 67.6% of the body mass. So the output of force potential thrives on the angular momentum of the torso, and the maneuvering of the arms as levers depends on the control of the Qua. And most crucial of all, the Qua junction serves as a hub of force transmission between the upper body and the ground. So what is the Qua? The Qua complex consists of the pelvic platform and the triangle of joints, the sacroiliac joint and the two hip joints. Also, the Fang Song practice nurtures the Qua complex to serve as a junction of reference. All these define the paramount status of the Qua. Now, turns out that the Dantian that we know is the central point of the Qua. So the point of reference shifts to the Dantian point. That is, the functional resolution of the mirror joints is now referenced to the Dantian as the center of the fascial tensional network. This establishes the centrality of the Dantian. So operationally, function is reduced to settling balance at the Dantian vis-a-vis the points. So this brings us next to the harmony of the three internal harmonies, the harmony of the heart and the mind, or Yi. For functional mechanism to work, we must have cognitive perception. This requires that in the practice, you have to be very attentive. But our mind is restless like a monkey mind with thoughts darting in and out. The practice of being attentive helps to temper and restrain the unruly mind and nurtures awareness that reinforces attentiveness. This constitutes the meditation component of the practice that promotes mindfulness that leads to the harmony of the heart and mind. It progressively, most importantly, progressively sharpens the perceptiveness of the mind to help us reduce the margin of errors in the function resolution, which leads to the convergence to Tai Chi balance. Then the harmony of the muscle and bone, muscle, tendon, and bone. This refers to the balance of the tensional force in the muscle tendon unit. The harmony in the exchange of the forces maintains the muscle tendon unit in a restful state and length. Now, at this rest state, the MTU is primed to generate maximal strength. This is the result of the sliding filament theory, where, as you know, in the sarcomere, the basic unit of the myofibril has a very narrow range where the filaments overlap, and at this rest length, they are set to generate maximal force on activation. So the function promotes the harmony of this muscle tendon bone. And finally, the internal harmony of, what is this harmony of Qi and Li? Well, the transmission of motion between the body segments at the joint is an interaction of the tensile forces, and the balance of the tensile forces is pivotal to the alignment of the momenta of the segments. The alignment is to ensure that the segments do not move out of sequential order. So The practice harnesses qi, the cognitive perception of the fascial tension in the MTUs, to balance and to align. So the Li force that we refer to here is not about the tensile forces, which can only generate body motion, but the force that ensues from the change in momentum, such as when the motion is resisted or in collision. So the harmony of Qi and Li refers to the resolution of the balance and the alignment of the momenta of the body segments. And the strength developed is what we call Nei Jing, or internal strength. Or it can be expressed as Nei Jing is equal to Qi
30 seconds.
plus Li. Okay, now finally, the principle, harmony principles inspires the generation of ideal body motion, one that is in accord with Taiji principle. And then we get, of course, what do we get? We get Nei Jing, we get the practice of meditation to give us tranquility and equanimity, and the harmonizing of the mind and the heart gives us the benefits of the balanced regulation of the limbic system, and of course the benefits of the health well-being in the practice of Taijiquan.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.